Saw and corkscrew are your main exercises for twisting or lateral rotation from the mat work that you can do anywhere. But the secret to them both is figuring out where you can ground in order to get leverage to decompress for your rotation. So let's look at saw first, because if you're layering in your exercises, you're going to really put that one in first. The important thing about your saw to find that anchor is to realize that it is your legs that are your constant. Your legs are your actual anchor, and you want them grounded, pushing down into the mat. Where now, look, there's actual muscles, where before, no, muscles, yes, no, muscles. We're going from muscles, right? It's going to be harder if you flex the feet, because it's putting more concentric work up through the anterior while giving you more eccentric work through the posterior of your legs. That makes it harder to engage your thut and your hammy and actually get down into the weight of the legs. So if you have to start this with feet pointed, and if your hip flexors are nasty at you, maybe even a little externally rotated, do you. Maybe knees are bent if you're really unflexible, or even sitting up on a yoga block. These are all options to make this accessible. Now, for the actual twist, in saw there's a bunch of arm choreography, but to get at the simplicity of the twist, we're going to put hands behind the head and really just look at the twist. If I don't engage the legs, blup, I have no grounding, and now automatically I feel more weight pressing down into my abdomen, down onto my spine, down into my hip flexors. So when I twist, my lumbar region is going to tap out really early, and because I am a goal-oriented person and want to please the teacher, I'm going to start rotating thoracic and then take extra rotation of my shoulder blades to make it look like I'm twisting more. But if you notice, nothing down here actually went into more rotation. Now that might provide some great thoracic mobility and movement of the scapula, but we're going for spinal rotation, not just some fun stuff in your shoulders. So now as I go to the other side, I'm going to ground down, engage the legs. I'll show a little flex foot so you can see the drama in the thighs. So now when I inhale and begin to pick up, pressing down to go up, you're going to see more rotation in my lumbar, because I have opposition to decompress up out of, to twist, and exhale, come back center. Now here's the other thing that helps with decompression. Inhaling as you're taking the twist, exhaling as you come back center. This fights the natural action to want to compress as you're coming into the spiral. So I'm going to inhale, press down to go up, and exhale, come back center. And when I exhale, I don't want to sink back down, because then I have to press down to go up again, inhale, twist, and then come back center. Now I'm going to turn around, because in turning around, as I actually now bring in the arm choreography of your saw, right, it does give you more movement of your shoulder blades. I press down to go up, and now as I move the arms to send opposite arm forward to the opposite pinky toe, watch the flipping over of this back arm. Give it good lift through that tricep. Contract as you keep twisting, reaching pinky to pinky. Now, if this hip, the opposite hip from where I'm reaching, lifts off the ground because maybe I'm tight in my QL or tight in my waist, that doesn't mean it still doesn't have weight and still doesn't have grounding. Because when I start to stack back up, it needs to find the floor. It needs to find the press down to send me back up in the twist and untwist. Inhale. Take an exhale as you go over. Does the hip need to lift as a feeling of you pulling the weight out of the ground, pushing it back down into the ground to come up and around? Now, there are going to be a whole lot of people to tell you that you should never, ever, ever, ever lift that hip up. And I'm going to say there's a whole lot of people in the world who are so tight that their hip is going to come up. Let the movement happen. Teach them how to control the weight, because you're going to need that for the corkscrew. All right, so here we go. Moving on, corkscrew. Okay, so here I am. Now I have to shift the anchor. I can no longer anchor with my legs because they're going to be moving around from the action of my spine. So my anchor is now arms, shoulders, upper back, right? I recommend you start with arms a little wide out to the side. I don't really like a full T out here because I don't think you get enough engagement in your lats. Just, down like A, right? Okay, legs go up. Now, in the beginning of your corkscrew, you are not supposed to lift your pelvis off the floor. You're supposed to find the weight of the orbit of the legs in the low abdomen, low spine. You're really trying to get rotation in your low waist and a good, strong, stable upper back. So we just give a little tick over, literally towards your like width of your shoulder, down on the diagonal. I like to go to center and then back up in the beginning, right? The full circle is a lot. Over to the left shoulder, down on the diagonal, come across center and up. Now, if you want to take the full circle, it looks like shoulder, diagonal down, other diagonal, shoulder, and up. Now, my pelvis has stayed on the floor. I do feel weight rocking my sacrum around because, again, the movement should be in your spine, and that's why I'm showing you from this way, okay? Now, see what it looks like if it's actually only movement in the legs. You're going to see the heels shift, and I've broken that unity in the legs, and then you're going to see them shift. One leg will turn in and turn out, and there becomes this whole zwirkle thing with the legs and the thighs, and quite honestly gets very, very chafy. So that's not what you want. You want to really rotate from the actual lumbar and low waist. So when the exercise gets bigger, you do have to lift your pelvis, right? If I'm going to go a little farther over at some point, I do have to lift this opposite side, come down, feel the weight come across and over. Now pick up the other side of that back waist and come back center. And if you, around, it's really hard to talk and do this, and center, okay? If you don't figure out how to control the weight of the pelvis on the floor and then purposefully, consciously, and precisely feel the rotation lift one side, go around to the other, and vice versa, then it's going to be next to impossible to do the full Monty of the corkscrew, where you start with the hips up in the air, you take a full twist through your thoracic, all the way down through your lumbar, and come back up. You know what I'm talking about. I'd show it to you, but I'm already tired.